Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. Okay, so here we are for another week of fantastic questions. We don't have so many today, so it'll be a nice short, sharp, quick fire episode for you. We're going to jump to them in just a minute, but before we do, don't forget, like, share, subscribe, write a comment, enable notifications, all that stuff so that you can enable the YouTube robot ninjas to go and grow the Kendo population, all right? We've been talking about this for weeks now. We're trying to get 1,500 billion people starting Kendo, and the way to do that is by doing all the YouTube stuff. It sends out the robot ninjas. It gets people to start, right? You have to type a comment. You have to type a comment that uses the word Kendo, though. It doesn't work, all right? What a great Kendo video. Wow, this is an amazing Kendo video. Best Kendo video I've ever seen. Stuff like that. And then you also have to subscribe and you have to enable notifications. It's super important, all right? Like as well. Like the video too. Thumbs up, all right? And let's get that Kendo population above that 150 billion people. Okay? More importantly though, if you like these videos, whether it's these Kendo rants that I do where I take your questions, whether it is the feedback videos that I did a massive feedback video yesterday. It was a bumper one, but it was really good because we looked at some Shiai from both Q grades and Dan grades. We looked at different levels of grading up to 5th Dan. We looked at some Shodan gradings. We looked at all sorts of stuff, all right? So that sort of thing where you send in the videos, we watch them together. I give you feedback. Everybody learns something. If you like that stuff, if you like the analysis videos that I do, not done one in a while. I think the last one I did was my own Shiai, actually. But if you haven't seen that, go and watch that because it's kind of fun. Because I went to a Shiai in Japan last year, traveled all the way to Japan just to do this one match. Because it was all like a one-match Shiai. And I sort of gave the analysis of that, and there's footage of it and all that stuff. If you like that, or if you like the instructional content that we do, I did one recently. I think the last one I did was on Super ZEI. I'm going to do another one soon. What would you like me to do instructional videos about? Let me know in the comments down below. What would you like more instructional videos about? That'd be great, actually. Really helpful, so let me know what you'd like me to do next. But if you like that stuff, best way to support us is by shopping at KendoStar.com. And the great news there is that it is a massive win-win situation because KendoStar is the best Kendo equipment website in the history and future of the human race, in the galaxy, in the Milky Way, in the universe, multiverse, megaverse, miniverse, microverse, macroverse, every verse. All right? Now, of course, I would say that because I own the place, right? But everyone agrees with me, all right? You get the best equipment, which I hasten to add is our own original brand. We're not just middlemen, yeah? We are an established brand specifically for the international Kendo community. We've been running for years now. We're in our, what are we in, 2024? So we're not far off like being, I must be doing this at 8-9 years now, right? So nearly 10 years we've been doing this, right? Going from strength to strength. It's the best gear you can get, and it's coupled with the best possible service, all right? I've got a team of professionals. We know what we're doing. We're not operating out of our mum's garage or basement or something like that. We're an established business, all right? With a team of staff ready to help you, all right? So shop at KendoStar.com, all right? It supports the channel. You get the best gear, get the best service. As the Japanese proverb goes, everyone's a winner, baby. That's the truth. Now, let's get to these questions. Hi Andy, I have a question about being competitive at old age. I started Kendo about a year ago and I love it. I've always been a competitive person, so no surprise to me that I also feel passionate about Shiai, which I plan to start attending soon. The problem is that I'm 30. Not old age, man. Which is, I understand, is already quite late Kendo-wise in comparison to everyone in my country's national team in their early 20s and with tons of years of experience ahead of me. I'm in peace with the fact that I may never reach the world stage and that I need to put twice as much effort in as those younger than me but I was hoping at least to be able to do well at local stage. Have you ever heard of Kendo that started as an adult and was still able to do well in competitions? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It depends where you are, right? It depends where you are. If you're in a country like the USA, then yeah, starting at 30 and then making yourself on the national team is going to be a super hard job. I don't think I'd say it's impossible. I don't know, but I don't know the specific workings of that. But I do know that they've obviously got access to a very large, similarly to somewhere like France, and to some extent here in the UK, they've got access to a very large pool of young, experienced, talented players, and to catch up with that is a big deal, right? So I get that. So I wouldn't want to sort of, raise your expectations on something like that when it's potentially not fair. But there's no reason you still can't do very well at, like you say, at something of, say, like local level, and potentially national level as well, right? It doesn't mean, although you might not be able, because the thing is with age, look, right, 30 years old is not old, all right? 30 years old is not old. It's going to come down to how much commitment you can give to it and how quickly you can kind of pick up the knowledge that's required to improve. That's on you, right? But from a physical point of view, you're still in good physical condition at the age of 30, in theory. So you still got a good chance to compete, I think. But yeah, you've got catching up to do. All right. So don't I wouldn't be sort of discouraged. I'd just do your best. Do everything you possibly can, and do your best to work for what you want to do. And do what you can to get there. I definitely think you could definitely do well at sort of local level and definitely do pretty well at national level, I expect to. All right. So, just do your best with it. I don't think you're sort of at that sort of old stage where doing that itself is going to be difficult. There does come a point, obviously, where the physical strain of trying to compete at a high level does get very, very difficult the more you get older. But when you're at 30, you're still well capable. All right, you're still well capable. All right. Next one. How would you go about re-dyeing your gi and hakama? You mean a kendo gi and hakama? I'm being strict now. Kendo gi and hakama. Kendo gi and hakama. This is where I do the correction stuff. There's no such word as gi. Did you know that? There's no such word as gi. It's kendo gi. Some people say keikogi as well, but the correct word in kendo is kendo gi. And hakama. Is it simple as just getting a spray bottle with eyes on it and spraying it down, or is there more to it? Yeah, no, don't do that. My uniform is about 4 or 5 years old, and the eyes on me feels like it's not as deodorizing anymore and smells quite ripe after a session. I used to soak it every third practice, and now it's every single practice. Also, Team Smith. Okay, so regarding re-dyeing it, the purpose of re-dyeing it should be to replace the faded colour rather than to deal with sort of odour after practice. If you're feeling like it's, if you use it and then you feel like it's sort of starts to smell after practice, and wash it as you're doing, and then just spray it with a deodorizer like a Febreze or a something like that. Like, do something like that instead after you've washed it, rather than using the Izome on its own. I mean, it's true that Izome is naturally a sort of deodorizing antibacterial, but I don't think that's a reason in itself to just re-dye the whole kendogi. Especially as you need to use you need to get the real Izome to do that. It's quite hard to get your hands on. We can probably help you get the right stuff if you get in touch. But you don't just spray it out of a bottle. It has to be soaked in it. All right. So I've never done it myself. I'll be honest. I've never re-dyed a kendogi. I know people that have done it. As I say, we can get the dye for you. It's not a particularly popular product in Japan too. It's not. People tend to just let the Kendogi fade. And then if they need a darker one, like if they're going to do a grading or something, they'll often just buy a new one these days because of, you know, prices have come down a lot. So, but we can definitely help you with it. Best thing is just hit us up by email if you want to do that, and then we'll take you through. We'll give you instructions of how to do it as well. I'll be honest with you, I'd need to read the instructions written on the product label and look into how to do it. I'm sure it's a case of you have to soak the garment in the isomate, and then you probably have to soak it in a sort of fixing agent as well. Is probably the process, to be honest. And there's probably an element of rinsing it as well. But I don't have a lot of experience with it, so I'm not gonna sort of speculate. Okay, next one. Sensei, before you worked at Kendo companies and owned one, how did it feel when you got your first new bogu set? Could you share experience when you first owned a premium set? How did Kendo name? How did I name the bogu sets? Myrmidon, Akatsuki, Mugen, etc. Mugen is not a KendoStar bogu, so we're gonna delete that. There's a little bit of contention around that name, I'll tell you that. But anyway, that's not for me to talk about. Right. So, when I first got my very first Kendo bogu set, I got it from a company here in the UK that was sort of the most established one. I won't name them, of course. But they sell Kendogu, bogu and stuff like that, even though they're not particularly a specialist Kendo store. Really, though they do sort of market themselves as that. They're more sort of seem to be more, certainly then as well, seem to be more specialized into Iaido and stuff. So I ordered my first one from them. I didn't really know what I was doing this was like early internet days. So you could order online. But there was nobody explaining the difference between 6mm, 5mm, and everything was just listed in millimeters, which you'll notice on KendoStar we don't do that because it's not a good way to judge the quality of a bogu set. But in those days, that's how everybody did it. They were like, okay, this is a 6mm bogu set, so that's a cheap one, and this is a 3mm bogu set, so that's an expensive one, which is a total nonsense way of doing it, by the way. But that's how it was in those days. So I had this sort of budget, and I just bought the most expensive one I could afford for that. I didn't want to have a black door. I wanted a different coloured door. I chose one that was blue, and I chose a specific mune and design to go with it. And I ordered it, and then a lot of time went by. Not a lot of time, but there was nothing written on the website saying how long it would take if I chose those options. So I just kind of assumed it would come in a week or two. But in sort of, I think it's about a month or something, I ended up calling them up. And they were like, oh yeah, we don't have that one in stock. So we have the exact same bogu in your exact size with a different mune. If you'd happy to take that instead. So I was like, yeah, sure, I don't care so much. I just like to get the bogu. So I got it. And it was quite an expensive bogu set. I think it was 2mm or something like that. So it was rock hard, horribly uncomfortable bogu set. But of course I was a beginner. I didn't know any different. I come from a very small Kendo club as well. So, of course I was very happy with it. But I didn't realize until much later that the bogu that had been sent to me wasn't my exact sizes. It was clearly somewhat bigger, and probably just what they happened to have that was similar, that they managed to send out to me. And it was a really important experience for me. And I don't regret the experience at all. In fact, I cherish it because it's what's helped me understand what's important in being a good supplier of Kendo equipment, and let's say what not to do, and to trade with integrity. So I had that for a while, and then when I was I wore that for, for probably a couple of years, and then I was selected for the World Championships in Taiwan, and my grandmother since passed away, of course, but my grandmother, as a sort of congratulations for me, offered to treat me to a new bogu set. So I bought it from a company that was based in Japan, through a person that was here in the UK at the time, who was sort of working as a sort of middleman. And I made some pretty bad choices with that too, but in a different sense. Again, there still wasn't a lot of like education around what is a good bogu set, and no one was thinking about what's good for the customer so much. So again, I ended, I think it was like a 3mm bogu set. It was quite an expensive one. It was more of a premium one. It wasn't a hand stitched one. I've had hand stitched bogus in the past since then, but I don't use them anymore. Anyway, it was a very nice bogu set, but I was at my sort of second and third dan level. We talked about the Kendo Dunning-Kruger effect, where you get to sort of second and third dan and you think you know everything. You think you're like the boss. You think you're well good, especially if you're like young and dumb like I was, and you're like you win some Shiai and you think you're pretty good. Like it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm so good. I'm such a badass. I'm gonna get a really flashy bogu that's gonna be really funny and like really stick it to the old senseis that think that you should be like, So I got this like bright gold door, and I still have the door. Actually, I still wear the door because it's kind of a memory for me, I got this like this bogu set. I didn't know what I was buying, so I just bought what I could, like, with the money that my grandmother gave me. I just bought the whatever fit that, which was quite an expensive one. And it was a very nice bogu set. Even now, looking back at it, in terms of specification, it was nice. It's not something I would choose now because, again, it was like full 3mm everywhere, and that's not great for me in terms of bogu design as far as I'm concerned. But I decided to have yaban here, which is like the little like arrow designs, putting all of the kazari everywhere, all over this bogu set in gold, which just looked dumb. It just looked so dumb. I thought it looked cool, but it did not. And then, yeah, I entered the World Championships wearing that. I looked like such a clown. I look like such a clown. It's so funny. So yeah, but that's what you do when you're like second and third dan or whatever it was, and you think you're the stuff, and you're actually nothing. But anyway, that was that, and it was heavy as hell because like I bought, like it just wasn't like it had this massive titanium ming on it. It's like, oh, titanium, that's what they make airplanes out. It must be so good. Like, it's not, it's heavy. It's super heavy. It's not, I didn't know anything about what I was doing. So that was like my first sort of, let's say, premium one. And like when I first got it and I put the men on, I was like, this men's really small. This men's really small, but actually it fits me really well. Like it feels like everything fits properly. It doesn't feel like loose. And that's when I realized the one I've been using had been too big. So yeah, I took it to World Championships. We're in the World Championships. Looked like a clown, and spent the next several years growing up, thankfully. So yeah. In terms of how do we name the bogu sets? All right, so I have a couple of principles when I name the bogu sets. For our main KendoStar line, I like to avoid using Japanese names. All right, I like to use names that are a bit easier. I know Myrmidon's not a great example, but like Vanguard, there's a little bit easier because my primary market is the international community. All right, we do have customers in Japan, of course we do, and we'd potentially, if I really started to put effort into marketing in Japan, which is something I'm considering doing at some point, then I'd potentially change the names on that basis. But our main bogu lineup is designed to be easily recognizable for non-Japanese speakers. So like I tend to use sort of English or Western words, which is why we have like Vanguard. I know Myrmidon is what it is. I'll come to that in a minute, how I got that name. We have Sentinel, you know. I know we have Kamui, which is a Japanese name, but that's, you know, but we have Victory, you know. I tend to do that, and then there is the odd exception. Like I say, Kamui is a Japanese word, of course. Myrmidon is I just thought it was a cool word. I can't remember. I think I watched Troy or something like that. I don't know. But Myrmidons were the Achilles' warriors, right, in ancient Greece. Yeah, so that's where I got that word from. I thought it was cool. I often just pick words that I think are cool. I just think like represent cool stuff. Yeah. So there's that too. And then for the stuff that's like, and then for some of the other stuff, like stuff that's made in Japan, then I'll often, like the Hinomaru series, they've all got Japanese names, and there's a little bit of a theme around those. They originally, when I very first launched KendoStar, the first bogu sets were only made in Japan bogu sets, so they were only high-end bogu sets when we first launched it. And all the naming conventions surrounding the bogu sets that we sold were around, were linked to like the Japanese word hoshi, which is star, because we're KendoStar, right? So we had like, which can also be read as sei, yeah? So we had like Kensei, which we now still, we brought that back for the, you know, and then it's Kiraboshi, yeah? Kiraboshi is a bright star. So that's what that was. And then when we were coming up with the name for the Akatsuki, that was a little bit different. Akatsuki is like the when the dawn is breaking sort of thing. So it's still like the kind of sky type thing, and you still might have stars about at dawn, you know what I mean? That was kind of where we were coming from with that, you know. So I often tend to use like themes around stars or the sky or something like that when I'm choosing Japanese names. That's not the case with Kamui, of course. I think I chose Kamui because I watched a movie. I think it was based on a manga or something like that, but it was about a ninja that was called Kamui, and I thought it was a cool name. So yeah, there we go. Yeah. Okay, next one. A while back, there was a special edition KS Smoked Shinai. It was a limited run and was a Koto style, I think is what you mean. Koto style Shinai. Are there any of the current smoked Shinai similar to that one? So the special edition KS was not a Koto style Shinai. It was an all-purpose Shinai. So yeah, we've got a really similar one now. It is the name escapes me. It's because I've been talking about all those bogu names. It's not Homura and it's not Hibana. It's the other smoked one, which is called. It's called the Rambu. Rambu. That's the one it's called. Oh dear me. That's just talking all the bogu names, and then I have to suddenly switch to Shinai names. So the Shinai names are a funny one, actually. They've all got names that are surrounding. Well, Rambu is a bit different. Rambu is like wild dance, but Hibana is like sparks, and Homura is like kind of burning stuff. So because they're smoked, you know, that was what that was about. But we've got them. They're called Rambu. Okay, Rambu, and they are a smoked all-purpose Shinai. We've got them in sets of 3, and we've got them in sets of 10 at the moment as well. So yeah, check those out. The decent Shinai. Okay, last one. We're at the end already. I told you it'd be a quick one today, short and sharp. Okay, let's have a look. Hi Fish Sensei, long-time listener, first-time poster. Welcome. I'm hoping you could offer some insight on how to approach Shiai when your opponent is still really new, like a few months in. I'm only first dan and I consider myself a beginner. It doesn't really follow a typical rhythm. I've always struggled in Shiai against college-age Q-level men who seem to run at me and strike how they want no matter what I do. I find it difficult to score a valid strike because their movements aren't what I expect. For example, stepping in, doing a bigger swing that couldn't be valid, but I end up hitting their hands instead of men. I'm almost never faster or stronger. I'm a female in my 30s. So I end up getting pushed around and I'm unable to create an opening to score. Is a type of approach of some waza that will work well in these situations? Yes. Yes. It's not easy. It is quite difficult. And you'll get better at it with experience. All right. So don't beat yourself up too much about it at the moment. Because in 2, 3, 4, 5 years' time, you're going to have a lot more experience and you're going to have a lot of more tools to deal with this, all right? But I appreciate at first stand level, it's a difficult thing to deal with. Now, if you're female and in your 30s and you're going against these big young guys that are sort of queuing, they're doing random stuff like running in like this and you can't hit the men, then try to hit something else instead. Try debana kote. Degote is a useful waza, all right? So try to hit their hands as it's coming up. Try to hit kote as it's coming up, all right? Try maybe men nuki do. Try to hit do when they try and do that. They should have plenty of time to do it if they're running up with their hands like that, right? These sort of things, okay? You could try other sort of orjuaza as well, like suriage men, but they're a little bit harder. But I think the key is you have to just watch. Just watch the opponent throughout the Shiai and don't just repeat the same things that you normally do over and over again. If you try to hit men and they throw their hands up and you hit their hands, and that happens every time you hit men, then you're going to have to do something else if you want a different outcome. Do you know what I'm saying? You can't just keep throwing that at the wall and hoping something sticks. You have to try instead to vary it up. All right. So then try to hit the kote, try to hit the door, this sort of thing. Okay. And as I say, after that, it's just going to be experience. There's no magic pill to say, okay, well, just use this whilst and you'll win all your matches. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. But try to stay calm. Watch. Okay, this isn't working. Change the plan. All right, and then you just need to change to a different type of technique. All right, and I'm sure you'll get there with time and experience. All right, I'm absolutely sure of it. And there we are. We're at the end of the show already. Okay, so it's a nice, short, sharp, quick fire one today. It was good. I hope you enjoyed it. No show next week because I am away. So that's that. So I'll see you back here in 2 weeks' time. Hope you have a fantastic weekend of Kendo planned ahead of you. And shop at KendoStar. See you next time. Bye-bye.